Welcome to A Bit of Board Games, a casual podcast documenting the many failures and hopefully successes of Waffle Games, as we learn the ins and outs of board game design and self-publishing. Join us on this journey as we talk about a bit of life, a bit of design, and a bit of board games. Welcome back to another episode of A Bit of Board Games. This is episode 75. Today is September 25th, 2023. I'm Steven, your host, and we got the full crew here today, guys. That was on screen. We got Trevor up in the corner. He's doing a dance for you guys on the podcast. Can you do an audible dance for people?
Yeah. Boom chicka boom chip boom chicka boom chip.
And down below on the screen here, we got Ralph.
Am I always on the bottom?
I don't know. I feel like it just kind of is random how it shows
I feel like
up
it
every
always
time.
does the same configuration. For me, it always
does
does the
it?
same configuration. I feel like it does. I'll have to pay attention
Where'd
now.
my screen go? Yeah, now I don't remember. Anyway, yeah, guys, we're podcasting today with the whole crew, the whole kit and caboodle here. So how you guys been? Ralph, you said you've had a really fun time at work recently.
Yeah, it seems like that's always my excuse. The thing is, this is the real explanation is, it's September 25th, as you said.
Yep.
It is the end of the quarter, and the way that my role goes is we are kind of the final step of the process for our product. So, everything. Not only are we the final step in the process, but a bunch of stuff is just due at the end of the quarter. We do quarterly releases. So
Yeah.
we just have to get stuff done like before the end of the month. And it always falls, like it gets pushed back until finally. We just have to get all these things done. So that's why I'm just like extra busy right now. The plus side of that is that the beginning of each quarter is usually way more, a little bit more relaxed, a little bit lighter. Get some breathing room in there. But yeah, that's been my life.
All right, Trevor, how's your YouTube channel going?
Dude, it is going pretty well. It
Do you have a
takes
million
a lot of time.
subscribers yet?
What?
Do you have a million subscribers yet?
No, just 500,000.
Oh,
I'm
okay, yeah.
not quite there. It's a little disappointing.
Hey, it's still respectable, man. I mean, respectable.
I guess. I don't know. You could always do better, but
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
been
I
fun.
expected you to do better.
Yeah, what's really taking my time though right now is it is football season. So I am watching football
What season?
Monday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. I get about 3 nights off a week sometimes, depending on if there's a good Friday night game.
How do you do it? How do you have that many teams you're even keeping track of?
He just watches all of the teams. Because it's
Yeah,
fantasy football, he needs to know all the individual players.
My wife and I have 2 NFL teams we pay attention to, really, and then 2 college teams. Really 3 college teams. Well, I guess kind of 4 college teams.
What's your NFL team again?
Too much. What?
What's your NFL team again?
So we like the Broncos, and my wife's from Nashville.
Okay.
So the Tennessee Titans.
That's right.
So let me ask you this. I asked Steven the other day, and he didn't know. But yeah.
I don't even remember.
So are you in this fantasy football thing for money? Is that like, is it because the things that I've seen with fantasy football, like when I've been in offices and stuff, people are like, hey, we're starting a fantasy football thing. You can get in for this amount of money or whatever. Like that's usually what the reason is. And
right.
So is that a facet of it?
So I'm in 5 leagues right now, which also takes up a good chunk of time. And 3 of those leagues are paid.
Yeah.
And 2 of them are not. And I'll be honest, the 3 that are, I pay more attention to than the 2 that are not.
So what's the possible payout of the paid leagues?
If I won each of these leagues, I'd probably walk away with about $500.
Okay, so it's not like crazy amount, but it's still like it'd be nice to win.
Yeah, sure. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's anywhere from like $10 to $30 buy-in for those leagues. So it's not like you're committing your soul, but at the same time, because I enjoy it anyway, and there a chance of walking away with some cash isn't not fun. So
it isn't.
And I'm not much of like a sports betting guy either. Like I don't, or just betting in general. So this is kind of like a one avenue in my life that I can feel like a scoundrel, I guess, a little bit. I don't know.
And you also
try to keep my language PG, but yeah.
You also have a little bit of control too, because like it depends on your choices somewhat, like managing your teams and stuff. So
exactly, yeah, you're not just betting on a team to win or something like that. You're betting on multiple teams to win, I guess.
So higher odds, like okay, so here's a question for you guys. What do you guys think of the disconnected mustache from my beard? I shaved and I accidentally cut the mustache.
I didn't notice it
a little too short, but
I didn't notice it either, but I think it's cleaner.
Okay.
Right. Like I'm wondering what it would look like if I didn't have this.
Well,
that's what you're saying, basically.
Yeah, I purposefully shaved these little spots. Let me get up.
Yeah, it doesn't look bad.
Yeah,
it doesn't look any worse.
Wow.
Oh yes, I like that line.
All right, second question.
No, I think it looks good.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, that's cool. Second question. What are you guys drinking tonight? What's your drink of choice for this late September evening?
Okay, so I'm not drinking alcohol on weekdays until October, so I've got like a week left. So right now I'm drinking some LaCroix and orange juice.
Like combined?
Yeah. It's like real good.
Like a sparkling orange juice?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. With a little, like, it's like a lime LaCroix with some orange juice. It tastes real nice. Also, I love doing this, is with some cranberry juice in the same thing. It's like a sparkling cranberry juice with like a little hint of something else. It's kind of nice.
Nice.
It quenches that like you're not drinking soda, you're not drinking a beer, that sort of.
But it's almost.
But I'm curious what you guys are drinking.
I have a Princess Yum Yum beer, which is
that's why he.
Are you trying to get me to spit all over my keyboard? What the hell is that?
It's from like Denver beer. I can't remember. I think it's Denver Beer Company.
Princess Yum Yum.
Yeah. Well, I think that's like a character from that one cartoon show.
That sounds like an exotic dancer's name.
Yeah. It's a raspberry Kolsch. It's pretty good. But
I almost got into Adventure Time once. But then I started watching I started watching The Amazing World of Gumball instead, and that was far more entertaining.
I've never heard of that.
Dude, it is the most nuts cartoon I've ever watched. It's totally kid. The weirdest thing is it's totally kid friendly, pretty much. I mean, it would need to be a somewhat older kid to really understand what's going on. But sure. Oh my gosh, it totally works if you're an adult. Anyways, it's great.
Nice.
Unironically great. But I am drinking just some white wine.
Nice. Very, very nice. Good.
Yeah, my wife uses it to make scampi. So when she makes scampi, she puts a splash of white wine on it, and it's great. So every once in a while when we have that, I just also have a glass because it goes well with the scampi and everything. So
that's
nice. Awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, that's our drink update of the night. So moving on to our next segment, Starfield.
Oh yeah, Trevor didn't get in on this yet.
Have you?
I don't think I need to.
Have you tried it?
Starfield is kind of what I expected it to be. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. Do you guys want to know my thoughts, or should I listen to what you guys have to say first?
We gave our thoughts last time, so you can, 2 weeks ago. So you can go ahead and give us your general thoughts, and then I'll just give an update of after having played a lot more.
Okay,
so I have some updates too. Yeah,
we're gonna keep this brief. I think we talked about Starfield way too long last time.
I have a lot of updates, and it's gonna be a long time.
So I work from
next
home
week for Ralph's cutaway of his Starfield rant. Okay, go ahead.
I work from home and can often, if not watch, like a live stream of a game, I can at least listen in on like commentary as they're playing the game, sort of thing. And so I do this often with like games that I'm somewhat interested in. And so I tuned in for like Starfield just because you guys have kind of hyped it up, and it's what I expected it in my mind going in, where it's like the stupid bugs where people's bodies are like flying up through buildings and like just stuff like that where you would expect that from a Bethesda game. Like,
right.
Here's the bummer about that. It's like people say, "Oh, you're just gonna have those random like Bethesda bugs, so it's not a big deal." And in my mind, I'm like, so just because they do it all the time, we're just giving them a free pass on it because it always happens, so it doesn't matter that it happens. Like,
have you seen Baldur's Gate 3? I mean, like, they set like a new precedent.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Bethesda can release another game the same way with that as like the bar.
And so that's what I was going to compare it to. People are saying, like, somebody asked in this stream, should I buy Baldur's Gate 3 or should I buy Starfield? And the person I was watching said, I don't know. It's really close for me. When just the week before, when he was playing Baldur's Gate 3, he said multiple times, there's not been a game like this in years. This is the most fantastic game I think I've played in my entire life. The amount of bugs is like
minimal.
Maybe I can count on one hand with how the complexity of everything I'm seeing and just the storyline and the character building and all this, everything is just so incredible. And then as he's playing Starfield, he's like, "Oh, this is weird, but it's a Bethesda game." Or like, I don't like the shipbuilding aspect. I thought I was going to enjoy it more, but it's a Bethesda game. They'll probably improve it. And then when he goes to tell this person, like, I don't know, they're both really good. In my mind, I was like, did you not like just play Baldur's Gate 3 and just rave about how that was the best game you've played in your entire life? And now, so it's just weird to me because I guess the bottom line is people are giving like it's almost like they're wanting Starfield to be as incredible a game as they had in their mind, where 100%. It does seem like a fun game, but I feel like people are trying to protect it almost.
But depending on the size of the streamer as well, on some level, they're not even gonna talk badly enough about Starfield because they're not allowed to, or because they don't want to be like blacklisted by Bethesda. They want early review copies. They're gonna essentially.
Well, they also want the views. They want the views. They want the people that are watching them to think that they're enjoying the game, so they keep watching them and get the,
yeah.
In general, Trevor, I have put in like 60 hours into the game.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, it seems like that type of game. I'm curious on the quality though, in your mind.
There are some really dumb bugs. There's multiple times I'm having a conversation with someone and they're talking like this, gesturing and like off to the side, or like someone else is just like another NPC is just running into them while I'm having a conversation. There's tons of weird dumb glitches like that, or just things that aren't smooth, and a lot of stuff, but like and there's a lot of stuff in general. The story has been a lot of fun. There's cool places to explore. The gunplay has been good, which I think the gunplay id Software, who like made Doom and stuff, like helped with that, and that's why the gunplay feels good. Like the guns feel really nice. So there's a lot of places that just feel empty. In general, like, this game could be way better. I'm still really enjoying it. I like doing the different quests and the stories, and like, I just started doing some base building. I don't know how to do the ship building. It doesn't make sense to me. I tried once and I'm like, why can't I just attach this part here? Like it's just moving away, and like, it was really dumb. So there's a lot of things. Like, I wouldn't recommend it to people unless they like really want a Bethesda game. Like, if you've played Fallout, Skyrim, those kind of things, like, it has the same kind of deal, like same kind of things you'd expect, but less of an immersive world, it feels like a lot of times. So it's been fun. I'll probably 100% it and then never play it again. And I've gone through most of the main guild lines and quest lines and all that stuff too, which, like, again, some really fun story, like really cool interactions and like random things that happen, but not to the scale of Baldur's Gate. So all right, Ralph, your turn. You've got 5-minute update, 2-minute update, 30-second update.
Well, when I started talking about it last time, I accidentally lied because I said that I had played it for 7 hours, but I knew that didn't feel right. And The reason I said that was because on True Achievements, that's how many hours you said it logged.
It's
You
always
constantly
delayed.
have to update. Yeah, you constantly have to update True. So what it actually was, I was around 12 hours actually, so a little bit longer than I said. By now, I'm up to probably 35 hours or something into the game, something like that. And overall, I think Steven, you mentioned this. You pretty much hit the nail on the head, though. Basically, if you want more Bethesda game, like you're a fan of Fallout, you're a fan of specifically Fallout 4, or you're a fan of Skyrim, that Bethesda loop. Boy, do I have the game for you. It's Starfield. It is not an innovative game, though. That's the thing.
Okay.
And that's what that's the big issue that I had was I was like, oh, space exploration is the reason to get this game. That is not the reason to get this game.
I'm barely in space.
Yeah.
I'm just on planet to planet, fast traveling.
Another, though, big ping point for me as I have played longer, the really frustrating thing for me is that actually the number of essential NPCs in this game is a total sin. It's like
you can't kill anyone.
You can't kill anyone, dude.
Yeah.
If they're not a total random, you cannot kill them. And that has not always been the case. Like there have been Bethesda games where you can just do whatever you want and then live in a doomed world. They'll literally tell you, you've just doomed this world. You cannot even complete the main quest or anything. But continue on or don't, whatever you want. And they just let you do it if that's what you want to do. And that's, in my eyes, way more respectable and interesting. And so the amount of role playing you can do in this game is going to come down to what kind of character you want to play. If you want to play some kind of goody two shoes, you'll be fine. But if you want to do anything remotely out of the box, you're gonna run into problems. So that's just something you have to weigh. But again, the Bethesda loop is an addictive one. It is fun. I am still playing it, so it's just kind of you gotta manage your expectations,
Okay, so I want a quick number then, based on your expectations going into it, 1 to 10, 10 being the best. Based on your expectations of what the game would be, where does it line up for you guys?
7.5.
Okay, so it's pretty high for you still?
Yeah, it's mostly what I expected. I expected more interesting places to explore. A lot of things just feel kind of empty.
Okay.
But it's pretty much what I expected.
Okay, Ralph?
Yeah.
I expected around a 6, and that's I think what I got with this one. But my number system might be confusing for some. A 6 out of 10 is still above average, so it sounds bad, but again, I still like it. I just wouldn't put it higher than that because I think Bethesda's released better games than this. But
yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I've already been I've been playing this one a lot, and I'm like, okay, I never played Fallout New Vegas. Like maybe I should play that one.
Ooh, dude,
next.
You really should.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not perfect, but like
I've heard it's one of the best Bethesda games.
Some of the frustrations with Starfield are not there in New Vegas. And hey, it's also on Game Pass.
I know,
so
that's the thing.
There you go.
There's no cost.
So when you're done with Starfield, and you want more, or you would just want to experience another thing like that, the New Vegas would not be a bad decision. So.
Okay. Anyway, that's the wrap up of our Starfield segment. I didn't have one last week, so we got away with that. So updates on our games. That's all the updates we have. So I thanks again to Jesse last week for filling in and letting me talk at him about the convention experience. I looked at the recording afterwards, and there's like 5% of the recording is him, and most of the time it's just like either asking a follow-up question about something or reacting to what I was talking about. But it was pretty much just me just going over the whole thing. He was a great sounding board for that. It helped be more interactive for me, not just me telling.
He's your therapist.
Yeah, thanks. It really helped me, Jesse. yeah, so I haven't worked much on that on the game. I went over kind of the notes with Trevor and Ralph just before. Um, I listened to another podcast today, and with a well-known game designer, Rob Davio, and uh, he's made a lot of stuff that I can't think of the names of right now to tell you guys.
A lot of very memorable things.
Yeah. Anyway, one of he's the guy that's actually like credited for that quote of like how far do you think we are in the game? Like 80%. Okay, cool. Like we must have like another 80% to go or something. Like him and his like co-designer that they worked on something. Because I've quoted that before. Anyway, I was listening to a podcast on the Board Game Design Lab today, where he was interviewing him again, and he was talking about like the process of playtesting and like when your game is ready and how much he playtests and everything. And essentially, he's like, if you have like a simple card game, like you might playtest like 100 times because like you can pick it up, play it 10, 20, 30 minutes, whatever. He's like, for a game that's like an hour, you might play a couple dozen times. But at that point, like the game is going to be pretty much there, like hopefully. And the tweaks you're making are going to be going back and forth. You're just like tweak something, and you play a couple games, and then you're like, oh, let's tweak it back. And you're just like, he's like, at that point, the game is good. It's never
interesting. I feel like that's what we're doing right now.
That's what I was going to bring up. Because like I heard this, I'm like, oh, like there are some things we obviously need to iron out still. But some of the things that have been coming up that we've been like tweaking, we've almost just like gone like literally tried this thing and then it works, but then we try again, it's like not working. And so we're like, oh, let's try it back the other way. And we literally were talking about something today with like the experience on the cards. So
yeah.
And some of that, like we need to do a little bit back and forth on some of the mechanics because other things change, which changes how those interact together. And so, but with that, like this, we just play tested. It was playtest number 16 that we have done now. Because I mark it every time so we can keep track. And we need to do more on Tabletop Simulator. Jesse wants to keep playing it, so like we should just do some sessions randomly.
Oh yeah. I don't know how you feel about this, but I thought about if you wanted to. My brother-in-law is super into board games, and he could be someone we could try to play test on. I don't know if you'd be interested, and I haven't even asked him. So, yeah. But just a random thought.
I'm totally down, dude. I have like 3 groups in town here, like 3 game groups that are like they want to play the game, but I'm always like, hey, it's like kind of taken apart right now, like because I do like these tests and then like we're tweaking stuff. But I think it's close to the point. And like this last time I play tested with the cards that I knew were already broken. Like I'm like, I know there's cards in here that don't work. I'm not reprinting them and paying for that like every time we play.
Right.
But it still gets the overall experience through. We're still testing the core of the game, and like some of the numbers might not line up. And when something comes up, I'd be like, oh, we've already fixed this. That was multiple times. People are like, oh, like this doesn't make sense. I'm like, yeah, we actually already fixed that. Or like, they're like, hey, with this, I'm like, yeah, we fixed that. This is just like an older version of the game. We just aren't gonna reprint every single time. But Tabletop Simulator, we can easily update that every single time at like little to no cost. Anyway, my thought there. So like, we still have more playtesting to do, but where we're at is a lot of just like refinement. And so like, there's a couple, like we took out corruption this time for those, and it felt really great without it. Felt fine, and it simplified it a little bit and enables us to add that in later and as a more refined version that we can test some more like on its own, and also add in like another level of gameplay for people. Like if they play the main game, they're like, oh, like this is great, and like, oh, like here, let's introduce some new mechanic to the game. Anyway, we've talked about that before too, but like I think we're getting really close. And so what he was saying, like with the playtesting, he's like, like a game that might take an hour or more, you might playtest a couple dozen times, and with that, it's some minor tweaks, but there's a point where you just are kind of like, well, it's as good as it's gonna get. Like it like we said, we get to that point where it's just you might go back and forth on stuff over and over again, and that's just subjective to whatever the last playtest was. And so, like, I don't think we're there yet. I think we still got some stuff that we need to work on, but we haven't adjusted main mechanics in a while. Like, we've tweaked some numbers on cards, adjusted some wording. The new way the shade cores are, that's been 5 playtests I think we've done with that new version. Like, that's the way they're going to be. Like, that works great. And like, not to say we might not to say that we won't adjust like the cost of it or something, and like we might move some numbers around and like adjust tweaks like that. But for the last 5 or 6 tests, that's all it's been, is like, okay, like this one specific thing didn't work, like let's just tweak some numbers, do some adjustments. So with that, I think we're getting really close to like to the game, not to the game being finished. We have a lot of art, and like I said, there'll still be tweaks, and then there's the whole process of the rule book and making sure the rules, having people test with just the rule book and making sure the rules make sense in that. So like there's still a lot of other steps and things to do, but like the game itself is almost there. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited about our current status. For sure.
Yeah. And October is quickly, what's the term? There's like fast, there's terms for this.
Approaching?
Fast approaching. I mean, there's that. There's I was gonna try to say something cooler. October is nigh. I don't know.
Nigh. Yeah, I like that.
The end is nigh. And Ralph and I are gonna crank out some doodles. For some art. You wanna talk about our plan for that, Ralph?
Yeah, so my current plan is Friday,
when this episode airs. So today, or a previous day if you're listening to this after it airs,
I'm gonna have a item. Basically one of the cards will be completed. Totally completed. I know that doesn't sound like much, but what that will allow us to do is basically know that it will make us know the process and the steps to follow for each subsequent card. And so we will be doing a Drawtober, Steven and I, where we
Trevor too. Trevor's gonna draw stuff too.
No. That would be great. If you want, I'm trying to make the steps as easy to follow as possible. Basically, having just everything figured out, and so that it's easily recreatable, and we can just crank through these items for every day of October, and that will be that. So that's our goal, and that will be a big step, because getting the cards looking the way that they're ultimately going to is going to be a huge step in just the game feeling more complete overall. And this actually brings up a good point that I've been wanting to mention for like months now, but I keep on forgetting.
To me or to the podcast?
To both, I guess, because it's relevant all around.
Do I know?
Trevor, the podcast? No, I don't think so. I mean, you don't know my mindset about this thing, but
okay. It's
just something that I've been thinking about. You and Trevor, so you guys have just a 100% different perspective than I do on this game. I imagine it must be a different feeling, because you guys have been working on this game for
a year and a half. Oh,
yeah, a year and
3/4.
Yeah, I mean, that's a long time.
February 2022 was when we started.
Yeah, so I mean, I just can't imagine. It must feel like a long time to be working on one thing, and where my perspective is just a little different, because I didn't hop on that long ago. I don't know.
Was it June or July? It was one of those. I think it was July, because you were finishing up your quarter in June.
Yeah.
Came on. So you've been with us for a quarter.
So that's just way less time to be. So for me, it's just like, it doesn't feel like I'm still excited. I'm still like, oh gosh, yeah. So we're gonna work on that, and I don't feel like super the urgency that you guys probably feel.
Somewhat, yeah.
So I can understand that from your all's perspective on that one, and you could also be feeling like some levels of burnout, and I mean, because there's just so much that goes into it, and you can only focus on one project for so long, I imagine. But just letting you know that I understand that position if that's something that you're in, and I'm gonna try to work with urgency. But just my mindset is just different on this because I haven't been in it as long as you.
That's fair.
You know, but
here's the thing. I've said this before. All of the playtests I've done, the amount of time, like where the game started from Trevor and I working on it to where it is now, I still enjoy playing the game every time. And that kind of reinvigorates me. We've had seasons where I'm like, yeah, definitely feeling burnout at different times. You know, Trevor and I have taken breaks at different times too, and like,
yeah,
there's times we've come on the podcast, we're like, hey, we haven't worked on anything in like 2 months or like a month or whatever, and like, cause you know, we've got families, lives, jobs, other stuff. And yeah, there's some aspect of like, man, I wish this game was out already, and like I wish we could publish it. Like,
I have to think that you think that sometimes.
Well, dude, so like our original timeline was like, oh, like summer 2023, we're doing a Kickstarter. That's over, and then we're like, okay, like for sure by the end of 2023.
Just barely missed that window.
Yeah, I think realistically, with like what we've been doing, what we have left to do, I think next summer we could do a Kickstarter, like end of next summer, like August, because that also is around the time when like the biggest game conventions like Origins and Gen Con are. They're like July or August or something. And so I think those could be good to get some more eyes on it and then launch a Kickstarter and then have like post Kickstarter promotion at the other ones. Like one of them is like July. I think if we launch it like between there, could be like a cool overlap. So next year we're planning on we're gonna try to go to those guys, those conventions. We'll figure that out. I don't know exactly when or how much it costs, but we'll see what we can do. I think it'd be really worthwhile. So anyway, I think next summer could be realistic, especially like if we get some art cranked out. If we could have like almost all of the art done by the end of this year, like by the end of 2023, which I think is feasible, then it's like refining, building an audience. We have visuals to market stuff. We've got time to build up more people, polish the rule book, all that. I think it gives us plenty of time. And so like, okay, I've been just rambling. My thought with this, yes, I wish we could get the game out as soon as possible, but also knowing how many games go out on Kickstarter or are published in general each year, and like the competition is high. There's a lot. And so this being our first game, people don't know us. They don't have a trust. Like we don't have a track record. I think if we can have the game as polished as possible, visually, gameplay wise, everything, and then go to Kickstarter and be like, hey, like this game is done and like ready to hit print and go, rather than being like, hey, we'll launch the game a year after the Kickstarter goes, which is a lot of games. So like, if we take longer now, that means it's shorter that people are actually waiting for it. Whereas like if we get to a point where like we can show enough and be like, hey, like we have this game we're making, and it's like, cool, like in 6 months it'll be done, and then in 6 months after that, hopefully everything will be shipped and manufactured and fulfilled. Like that would look way worse on us. So like from things I've heard too, like the biggest thing you can do when you don't have any trust built up from people is to like to mitigate the risks as much as possible. And so one of the biggest things we can do ourselves is just having a finished, like polished product. So yeah. I think the more work you put in the front end, because we're trying to do this like to build up a brand and do other games in the future, you know, if we can build trust and have a good run on this on our first one, that's much more likely people will, you know, be around for the next one. Whereas if we do stuff and it doesn't go well and like it takes a lot longer and we're not prepared and like all these issues happen, which like issues can still happen, we're still probably gonna have things we run into, But the less of those that happen, like the more trust we'll build for the next one too.
Right.
Don't want to be the next Unity.
Oh gosh,
dude, that's been nuts. They retconned some stuff, and
they did finally.
They
took them long enough.
Well, okay, like if you're small and you don't make more than 200,000, then you don't have to worry about this. And also, now you can choose to do a revenue share instead of that. Anyway, where this is not a video game podcast, guys. What are we doing here? Trevor. Okay, last thing, I guess. We haven't done one of these in a while. An impromptu game design brainstorm of how would you turn this video game into a board game. And do you remember the game you brought up, Trevor, a while ago that you said like next week? This was like months ago. You're like, next week we're gonna do a game design sesh of how you would do a Call of Duty Warzone board game.
Oh my god!
And then we never did that. Which I think is kind of timely because they're shutting down Warzone.
Are they?
Yeah.
Are they? I didn't know that.
Or they did. I don't know. The new Call of Duty is coming out. Maybe they're shutting it down when that one comes out in November.
It would.
So I thought that'd be a fun thing to wrap up this episode. We could also just choose a different game.
I'd choose a different game.
Okay. Ralph. What?
That might be good because I don't even know. I've never even played the Warzone.
That's fine.
I kind of know what it is, but
okay, Ralph. What's a video game that we're gonna just come up with ideas on the spot of how we could turn it into a board game? What game should we do?
Let's do. Oh, jeez.
Could be an indie game. Could be anything. As long as Trevor and I've like heard of it, so.
Right, yeah. What about? I don't think you guys have played that.
What is it? What game?
I was gonna say Resident Evil, but I don't know if you guys have played that.
I haven't. They've actually made board games of that, so.
Oh, that's another thing. It's gonna be like what games haven't been.
Or like a type of game. We could do a type.
Like
of game.
I was thinking, RTS games could translate really well to a board game.
Like an Age of Empires type thing.
No, well, but actually, here's this. This is interesting, actually, because I was just thinking about this.
Okay.
RTS on a small scale.
It'd have to be rather simplified, yeah.
Well, yeah, but also just it could be more interesting that way. Most RTS games are this giant thing. You've got like big factions battling it out, like giant armies, everyone going. What if it's an RTS game? You have simple or just like like certain objectives to get through. But you're working with a smaller party. You're not working with like huge factions of things. You're just working with like a party of like a just like a party, like an RPG party, but like things play out kind of like an RTS. I was just thinking about that.
So like
the other day.
you like plan your movements, and then you like choose your movements. Like maybe you're gonna move, maybe you're gonna attack, maybe you're gonna do whatever.
Certain characters can be good at certain things, so you allocate them to certain tasks, and others could do other things.
I'm sure.
And then an element of base building as well, because
right.
RTS, you're usually base building a little bit, so it could be interesting.
That's pretty cool. Okay, Trevor, what kind of RTS games have you played? Have you played like Halo Wars, Age of Empires?
Yeah, like Age of Empires is probably the most recent, honestly. I
played this one called Emperor Battle for Dune, which was like my favorite game when I was growing up. Nice. One of my favorite games. And it's based in the Dune universe. And so you play as like House Harkonnen or Atreides or other ones. And so like you're themed around that. And like I always loved doing Harkonnen because you'd have these like crazy vehicles which is like spinning blades that just drive around. So yeah, you could have almost different factions play. Okay, here's here's what I'm imagining for this RTS game. This Ralph terrific strategy game, RTS. That wasn't a good one. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm okay. I'm gonna stop thinking of what RTS could stand for with Ralph's name. But okay, so you have some different factions. You could even do. Initially I was thinking like it would be like 2 players, but you could even do more. And you'd have. I'm thinking like hex tiles on the board. Like you have like a grid of hex tiles, and almost like everything is unexplored in the middle. You each have like your corner or side you start on, and you have like your initial base that's like your hex flipped over, and you have a certain amount of resource allocation. So it'd be kind of like a worker placement mixed with almost like a war game, but again, condensed. You don't want it too big. And then you have your house, your clan, whatever your faction is. Maybe you have like a set amount, like a set like 3 to 5 options of what you can build, of like something that gives you resources, something that gives you like troops, or like combat benefits or defense benefits, or like you have like a category. So you can like, hey, I'm going to build a barracks, and then that lets me produce more troops, so then next turn I can pay a certain resources to do that. And then you have like your people that you like move across, and as you move it flips terrain over. And so maybe there's like interactive elements of like loot or things you can find as you're progressing through this terrain. And so then you're trying to like, it's somewhat strategy, like you're trying to take each other out. Again, like you'd have to be pretty small. Like otherwise it's just a lot of turns of people just moving, doing stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe there's something that can move like 3 spaces, and like instead of like here's an overview of a map and you're like crossing it, it's like here's this, think of like a Halo multiplayer map size, like but in perspective. And so like you're moving on this one individual map trying to take each other out, take each out their bases.
Yeah,
that's what I've got.
One of the unique selling points, though, I think that would be really interesting to play with would be playing with the idea of small scale, though. So rather than like an outpost where you build like a tower, it would be like you build a bird's nest instead. Like just something that feasibly just someone with very limited resources with not a ton of personnel could do. You build like a bird's nest, you build a log cabin, or it depends on the theming. Again, you could go a ton of directions with this, but
do a lot of different things.
One of the coolest things would be the small scale, because one of the games I played growing up, that was one of my favorite games, and it's this weird game, is Jurassic Park, Chaos Island for the PC. And it was an RTS game, but it was super small scope. So like you play as the characters from the movie, and basically you're not working with armies. You're working with just like characters from the movie, and then you can go out and find eggs to come back and hatch at your base to then recruit dinosaurs to your team. The ones that you hatch become on your team. And so you're building stuff like egg nests, you're building a small campsite, you're building like tents for healing, just like small scale stuff, and you have a set of simple objectives to complete instead of like take over the world, dominate all these regions. It's just like here's your objectives, and you check off those items of the list in an RTS fashion. So you're still clicking on characters and like setting them to do things, but it's just at this really limited scope, and it just made it really unique and kind of charming and interesting to me.
Yeah.
But
okay, Trevor, what are your thoughts on a scaled down, simplified RTS board game?
Yeah, it would have to be. I don't know where my mind goes with it, because there's so many ways that you could, like what you guys are alluding to, there's a lot of different directions you could go with it, with how simple you want it to be, and then also what aspects of the RTS are you focusing in on to make the game, because you still want it to be fun. I mean, dumbing it down to a point where you're just like using, I don't know.
It'd have to be thematic and still feel really good.
You're right. Yeah, you need something. You need to be pulling some cool
you can't imagine it as a base building thing.
Right.
Because then that would add way too much complexity. Like or like scale down based, like you were saying, like Trevor, do you remember that game Ravine
Yeah.
So like there's things where like you can, really simple game, but like you're on your turn, you can forage. When you forage, you might find food, you might find sticks, rocks, or fiber, and like then you can craft with sticks, rocks, and fiber different amounts. You can craft a spear, or a basket that lets you forage more, or a shelter that protects you at night. And like, so there's almost an aspect of that, this scaled down card game, where like you can create these small things that help you in those different ways, but it's not like I'm like my idea of like the barracks, like that was a terrible idea. Take it back. You're not building up a base, but you're like building up beneficial things on a smaller scale.
Correct.
Yeah.
This might be jumping the gun also, and it could not apply, but something that came to mind while I was thinking of this idea is it could be something we could apply to like Barrow March, because have
we announced this before?
I don't think so.
But sorry, we can talk about it.
We don't have to get into it, but basically, I mean, the idea would be you're managing a base and a small group of characters to get to somewhere. So you can go, like, each turn could be like a region, a new region that you enter, one step closer to your goal. And then you're also trying to manage like the sickness and so like you could lose members every turn. You could encounter enemies every turn, and there's an element to managing your moving camp and your moving party towards a location, and you run into things, and you can find things and scavenge for things that improve your odds.
Yeah,
and fight the elements. And so it came to mind again. I could be jumping the gun, but
write those down.
There's a world where that could work.
Go find our game doc and write some stuff down.
Yeah, I need to do that. Yeah.
Just like whenever you have ideas or something, write them down. Otherwise, we might lose them. Because those are great things that could be good influence for that game. So
yeah.
Anyway, that's all the time we have for this episode. Thanks again for tuning into this podcast episode here and letting us just talk at you for a while. If you want to keep up to date on what we are doing, go to bitwafflegames.com to find a link to our Discord. Sign up for our monthly newsletter, which it's almost time for me to write another monthly newsletter, guys. So better get out there quick. You can also follow us on Instagram, and we're kind of on Facebook, I guess. And like and subscribe and rate the podcast and that kind of thing, for sure. So anyway, thanks again for being here, and we'll see you all next time.
Yep. See you guys.
All right. Later.
Bye.